I never asked for a party. I don't know why that part keeps echoing in my mind. Maybe because I'm trying to convince myself that I'm not being ungrateful. That I wasn't hoping for applause or confetti or some kind of return for everything. I had to lose to survive. I just thought, maybe they'd look me in the eye. Maybe they'd say something real. Maybe they'd hug me for longer than a breath. Instead, they clinked their glasses for her. The dining room was glowing in warm-toned fairy lights, the table set with blue ceramic plates and my mother's favorite linen napkins, the ones she kept, ironed and folded in the hutch, like they were only allowed out for holidays. I should have known then. The celebration didn't feel like it was for me. It felt like it was for something bigger, or someone louder. I was seated at the end of the table, the spot they give to toddlers or old men, like a guest. My name card was handwritten in rushed cursive, misspelled. Kayla with a Y. No one corrected it, not even me. Across from me sat my sister, Betrayal. She was glowing, not metaphorically. She was actually glowing. A soft highlighter shimmer on her cheekbones. Perfect hair swept up like she was walking into a photo shoot, and not her sister's Remission dinner. She kept pressing her hand to her stomach. I thought she had a stomach ache. Or maybe something was wrong with the food. I almost asked if she was okay. The irony of that almost makes me laugh now. No one mentioned my name when the cake came out. There was a small candle in the center. Not even a number candle, just one of those emergency birthday ones you keep in a junk drawer. Dad lit it with his eyes somewhere else, then clapped twice and said something like, "We're just so lucky. So lucky." And I waited. I waited for the toast. For my mom to look at me and say, "You did it, sweetheart. You made it through." For someone to bring up the months I spent not eating, the hair I lost in pieces, the way my arms looked when I tried to lift a grocery bag. Instead, Betrayal stood, and that's when the room quieted, and I felt myself slipping. Not from the moment, but from the story, like I was no longer the one it was about. "We didn't want to say anything yet," she said, "but I'm pregnant." Gasps, cheers, forks tapping on plates. Mom cried into her wine glass. Dad actually stood up to hug her. I hadn't even blown out the candle yet. It kept flickering, small, dumb, pointless, like it was waiting for me to do something. The flame eventually gave up. It sputtered once, curled sideways like it was trying to leave, and died without a sound. No one noticed. The candle, or me. Brielle's hand was resting gently on her stomach now, the way people do in maternity shoots. She looked porcelain in that moment, fragile and center-staged. Her husband, Caleb, stood beside her with his hand awkwardly hovering like he didn't know where he belonged in the attention, but still glad to be part of it. I couldn't taste the cake. My fork scraped the edge of the ceramic, slow and shallow. It sounded like chalk on a sidewalk. That's all I remember hearing, not their cheers or their overlapping questions or the phrases like, "When are you due?" And we just knew something was different about you, Bree. They all looked so happy, like this was the real celebration, like everything before it had just been a soft warm-up, appetizers before the actual feast. My name didn't get said. Again. It was strange, sitting there with veins still bruised from IVs, scars barely faded across my chest, and the faint ghost of nausea that chemo never fully surrendered. I had prepared myself for recovery being quiet, but I didn't think it would be invisible. I didn't even feel sad. I just felt hollow. Like someone had scooped out the part of me that used to get angry or proud or hopeful and filled it with a kind of cold understanding. This is who they are. Not cruel, not evil, just inattentive in the way that stings more than hatred, indifferent in the way that erases. Later that night, I helped carry the dishes. Mom thanked me without making eye contact. Her mascara was slightly smudged, and I wondered if she had cried for me at all this week. She hadn't visited during my last round of treatment, said it was too hard to see me like that. But she was fine tonight. She had already added Grandma to her Instagram bio. In the kitchen, I placed the last plate into the dishwasher and turned, only to find my seat at the table already taken. Brielle had moved into it. My name card, the one that had already been wrong, was gone. Probably thrown away, like the candle stub. I took a deep breath, then went to the bathroom and locked the door. There, I finally let the air out of my lungs, pressed my hands to the sink, looked at myself, truly looked. My face was thinner. My eyes had darkened, and the curve of my mouth no longer knew how to form a smile without second-guessing its timing. But there was still something in my expression, a sliver of something hard, something quiet and sure. I didn't cry. I just stared until the mirror blurred. That was the night I made the decision, not out of anger, not out of bitterness, just out of survival. I wouldn't chase the candle anymore. I would become the match. The group chat was renamed Baby B Incoming. The next morning, no mention of the Remission dinner, no photos of me. Not even the blurry one my uncle took when I was helping Mom carry the casserole dishes to the table. The only pictures posted were of Brielle holding her stomach, her nails painted pink, Caleb's arms slung around her chair. One of my aunt even commented, "This baby is already so lucky to have such a beautiful family." I didn't reply. Didn't even open the messages after that. I turned off notifications, muted the chat, archived it. That same morning, I picked up the packet the oncology nurse had given me 2 weeks before, the one with "Life After Treatment" printed in soft blue letters on the front. I hadn't opened it yet. It felt too soon, like I was still hovering at the edge of something unfinished. But now I wanted to know, what comes next, when nobody's clapping anymore? There was a checklist inside. Regain energy at your own pace, hydrate. Often gentle movement helps. Reclaim your space, seek support. That last one made me pause. Support? The only person who called me the next day was Karen from the infusion center. She left a voicemail that said, "We miss you already, Kayla. You were one of the strong ones." Funny, no one in my family had ever said that, not even when I was throwing up blood at 3 a.m. and still helping Brielle shop online for her engagement party backdrop. She said she wanted warm neutrals, and that I had an eye for color. Never mind the fact I was gray. Now she was the strong one. The miracle. The rest of that week passed in strange quiet. No one brought up the dinner. No one asked how I was feeling post-celebration. Instead, I got tagged in a Facebook photo album titled "Growing Our Family." And in the corner of one of the pictures, the only one I appeared in, you could see me clearing plates in the background. Fork in one hand, empty wine glass in the other, head turned down. The caption read, "Biggest night of our lives. Thank you to everyone who made it so special." They didn't mean me. I started taking walks at night. Not for fitness, just for silence. I liked the coolness of 9:30 p.m., the way streetlights hummed, the feeling of being completely unseen. It was the first time in months I wasn't tethered to anyone else's urgency. Not a nurse's schedule, not Brielle's needs, not my mother's disappointed glances. One night I walked past the old community center where they used to hold crafting nights and low-cost yoga. A woman was stapling a flyer to the corkboard. She smiled at me. Not out of recognition, just casual kindness. I waited until she left. Then I walked up and read the paper. Volunteers needed. Women's shelter. Clothing drive. Help sort, fold, organize. Every Saturday. No experience necessary. It wasn't a grand thing, but it felt like something mine. The next morning, I didn't tell anyone where I was going. I just left a note on the fridge. Don't wait up, I'll be late. It was the first sentence I wrote in my own handwriting in months, and somehow, it felt louder than her announcement. By the following weekend, the fridge was still full of leftover celebration food. Half a casserole. A foil-covered tray of uneaten deviled eggs. The cake, the one that was supposed to say, "Congratulations, Kayla," but had nothing written on it at all, sat in the back, the frosting starting to harden. No one seemed to want the remnants of that night. Except me, not because I wanted to eat it, but because I needed the reminder. I sliced off a piece of that cake and sat on the porch, barefoot, wearing one of Dad's old sweatshirts. The porch swing creaked under me. It always had. Even when I was little, I used to pretend it was a boat and I was sailing somewhere far away. I'd wrap myself in a beach towel and close my eyes like the creaking was the mast of a ship in the wind. I still do that sometimes, but this time I wasn't pretending, was planning, not a scheme. Not a revenge in the way they'd write about in fiction. Just a boundary. A soft, slow, irrevocable line. That Saturday at the clothing drive, I met two women who called me Hun before asking my name. One of them, Rosa, handed me a folded cardigan and said, "You look like you've been through something. But your eyes? Your eyes still got heat." I hadn't heard anyone say something like that to me before. Not in months. Maybe not ever. That same afternoon, a young mother with 2 kids came through the line. She was quiet, hair tied back, no makeup. Her son wouldn't let go of her leg. She picked out a scarf. It looked like one I used to wear in high school, bright green with little stitched flowers on the ends. She held it up, smiled faintly, and whispered, "This'll make her feel like we're starting over." I blinked hard. That scarf had once made me feel that way. I realized in that moment, there are 2 kinds of families in the world. The ones you're born into, and the ones you build with what's left of yourself. Later that evening, back home, I found Brielle sitting on the couch with her laptop open. She didn't look up when I entered. She was scrolling through baby shower themes. "What do you think of a woodland creature's vibe?" she asked, casually. I didn't answer. She looked up. "Kayla, hello?" I sat on the arm of the chair across from her. Calm. Then I said it. "I'm not going to be part of this." She blinked, confused. "What do you mean?" I paused, then clarified. "The planning, the parties, the pretending like everything's normal." She scoffed. "Oh my God, are you still mad about the dinner?" Still. Mad, as if I was the problem. I stood. My voice didn't raise, but it didn't shake either. It wasn't a dinner. It was supposed to be mine. Her mouth opened, but nothing came out. So I walked out of the room, went upstairs, closed my door, and this time I locked it. It took 3 days before anyone knocked on my door. Not to check on me, not to apologize, just to ask if I could take the guest room so Brielle could have the bigger space before her back started hurting. That's what Mom said, casually, through the half-open crack of my door, while holding a laundry basket and avoiding eye contact. She's going to need more room for the crib, and... You don't really use the closet anyway, right? I didn't say anything, just nodded once, and that was apparently enough. By that night, my things were in boxes. It wasn't the first time they'd moved me like furniture. When I was 12, Brielle decided she wanted a reading nook, so they gave her mine. I was moved into the attic room with the slanted ceiling and no insulation. I told myself I liked the sound of rain hitting the roof. That year, I learned how to be small. Now, at 27, it hit different. Not because I was shocked, but because I wasn't. I didn't argue. I didn't cry. I just quietly took one of the moving boxes, carried it to the garage, and set it down beside a stack of old winter decorations. Then I walked to the kitchen and unsubscribed from the family Wi-Fi. They wouldn't notice until the Netflix logged out. That night, I booked a small room on the west side of town. Furnished, studio, month-to-month lease. It wasn't glamorous. The bathroom tiles were cracked. The kitchen light flickered. But it was mine. I left a note on my pillow. You can have the room. I won't be needing it anymore. No forwarding address. No emotional goodbye. Just the click of the front door behind me. On my 3rd night in the studio, I made dinner. For myself. Nothing elaborate. Just roasted sweet potatoes and lentils in a pan that belonged to no one else. I ate in silence, with the window open and a fan humming in the background. I didn't check the group chat. Didn't scroll for pictures of the baby bump. Instead, I wrote a list in my journal. Things I want that don't belong to anyone else. A chair that doesn't wobble. A name that isn't spelled wrong. A moment that doesn't get interrupted. A life that doesn't need explaining. A feeling that lasts longer than applause. The next morning, Rosa from the shelter called. You still coming Saturday? We've got a lot of women who'd love your help sorting donations. I said yes, then paused. Actually, could I come Friday too? She laughed. Honey, you come whenever you need to feel like you exist. The missed calls started the following Sunday. First Mom, then Brielle again. This time from Caleb's number. I didn't answer. They didn't leave voicemails, just those sharp missed call alerts with no explanation, no hope you're okay, no text to follow up. Just a sudden, collective realization that I was gone, that I wasn't there to clear dishes or hold the door or ask how she was feeling this week. On the 5th call, I powered off my phone. Not from rage, just from clarity. Rosa gave me a set of keys to the back door of the shelter that Monday. You come so early now. We figured you might as well open the place. I smiled. Not the polite kind, the real kind. Small, but rooted. It felt strange, growing closer to strangers than my own family. But maybe that's what healing actually looks like. Not some parade or moment of applause, but a folding chair pulled out for you in a quiet room where someone says, "Glad you're here." The shelter wasn't pretty. The paint chipped near the baseboards. The heater clicked loudly in the mornings. But it was safe and honest. And no one ever asked me to be less in order to belong. There was a woman there named Dana, mid-40s, sharp laugh, sleeves always rolled up. She'd gone through hell, you could tell. But she always asked how I liked my tea, always remembered my name. One day she handed me a soft gray coat from a donation pile. This one looks like you. And for the first time in months, I wore something without explaining where it came from. Back at the house, the one I no longer called home, Brielle posted a story of her baby shower invitations. They were blush pink with gold foil letters. The caption read, "Designed by me. Baby B can't wait to meet you." I watched it once, then closed the app. 2 hours later, I received a mass email invite. Subject, "You're invited. Body. Please join us as we celebrate Brielle and baby B. Food, fun, and family." I was listed in the CC line, not even BCC'd. No personal message. Not even my full name. Just Kayla M. The same way they might invite a neighbor or a coworker they forgot about. I didn't respond. Not with words. Not with silence. Instead, I went to my studio's kitchen drawer, pulled out the pastel invitation card I'd saved from my Remission dinner, the one they never used, the one I designed myself months ago when I thought there might be a real celebration. It had my name on it, full and spelled right. It had butterflies and soft script and a tiny "You did it" in the bottom corner. I folded it once, then once more, and slipped it into the recycling bin. I didn't RSVP, not to be petty, not even to send a message. I just didn't want to perform anymore. The invitation sat unread in my inbox, blinking like an old streetlight nobody bothered to replace. On the morning of the baby shower, I got up early, not to attend, but to wash sheets at the shelter. One of the younger women, Justine, had gone into early labor the night before, and they needed someone to help prep the bedding in case she came back with the baby. So I folded warm cotton, listened to the hum of dryers, and didn't think once about whether the balloon arch had arrived on time. Around 2 p.m., my phone buzzed. It was a picture message from my aunt, a shot of Brielle holding a pink diaper cake, her hand resting on her stomach like it was a crown. The caption read, "Wish you were here, sweetie. It's not the same without you." I stared at it for a moment. The picture was framed perfectly. Everyone smiling, laughing, hands mid-toast. And yet, something was off. It was the chair in the background. Mine. The one I'd always sat in, at family gatherings, near the window, back slightly uneven, cushion flattened from years of use. No one had taken it. It was empty. Just there. Ghost-like. Holding the shape of someone they no longer remembered how to seat properly. I didn't reply. That night I made dinner with Rosa. She invited me over to her small apartment after we'd finished sorting winter coats. The place was nothing fancy. Secondhand chairs, mismatched mugs, soft music playing from a tiny Bluetooth speaker. But it felt like a place where people were seen. We made lentil stew. I chopped carrots while she told me stories about the women she used to help back when she worked in a halfway house. One of them, she said, had come back 10 years later, just to say thanks. I asked if she ever saw her family. She paused, then shrugged. Sometimes love isn't where you started. Sometimes it's what you build by hand. I nodded, stirred the pot, said nothing. That night, I lay in bed staring at the ceiling of my studio. A water stain above the far left corner had started to look like a map. I imagined it led somewhere colder, quieter, more honest. And in the silence I whispered, not bitterly, just softly, "They didn't notice I was gone. but they'll feel the space I left. I didn't go to the baby shower. I didn't send a gift. I didn't explain why. Some silences aren't empty. Some are so full, they echo. 2 weeks passed before anyone said anything directly to me. Mom texted, "Brielle was hurt you didn't come. She really hoped you'd put it behind you. Behind me. Like it was a phase. Like healing was a mood they expected me to change out of." I didn't reply. Instead, I walked to the corner bookshop and bought myself a potted plant. Something green. Something alive that needed me, and nothing else. I named her Iris. She sat in the sun and leaned toward the light, even on cloudy mornings. A month later, Rosa invited me to a potluck at the shelter. No balloons, no banners, just soup and folding chairs, and a table where everyone brought whatever they had. I brought roasted sweet potatoes. One of the women hugged me twice when she took a second serving. That night, when I got home, I found an envelope in my mailbox with no return address. Inside was a card, a baby announcement. It was a picture of Brielle and Caleb holding their newborn. Pink bows, soft pastels, typed message. Introducing baby B. Born healthy, loved deeply, surrounded by family. That last part stuck with me. Surrounded by family. I put the card back in the envelope. Then I slid it between 2 books, on my shelf. Not to display, but not to destroy. It happened. It was real. But it wasn't mine to carry. The next morning, I made tea. I looked around my little studio and realized I hadn't cried once in over a week. Not out of pride, just peace. I had done what they never expected. I left quietly, and I stayed gone. No. Door slammed. No long message. No guilt-fueled explanation. Just a life that no longer asked for applause. Just a room full of my own air. Just a girl who once survived cancer, and then decided to survive everything else too. That's how it ends. Not with vengeance, not with some grand confrontation, but with me turning off my phone, watering my plant, and finally, feeling like I was no longer waiting to be chosen.